right, welcome to the Tattoo Teacher podcast this evening, today, wherever you may be, in whatever time zone you are living in. On today's episode, I have Tom Oliphant as my guest. He is currently the Head of Technology and Enterprise at St John's Grammar in Adelaide. He is an award-winning, passionate and innovative educator with over 10 years' experience in advanced technologies education. He loves promoting problem-based learning and exposing his students to emerging technologies and future pathways in STEM. Some of his recent recognitions are the Educator Hot List 2022, South Australian STEM Educator of the Year finalist 2021, Education Hot List again in 2021, Vex Robotics Australian Teacher of the Year 2021, South Australian STEM Educator of the Year finalist in 2020, and EdTech SA Leading Light Award winner in 2020. So, Tom, welcome to the Tattoo Teacher podcast.
Thanks, mate. That's quite a nice little introduction there, so I appreciate that. Cheers.
Hey, it sounds like you have been a busy young man.
Yeah, look. I'm really passionate about teaching and sort of immersing myself in some new and exciting projects. But yeah, I like keeping busy, but especially if I love it. So,
well, it sounds like you love it, and it sounds like people are really responding to what you're doing. We get awards, we get accolades, and things like that. But I dare say that these awards come from your passion shining through in your day to day. So, congratulations.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Now, you do all this. You're in Adelaide. You're head of department. Why? What's your why? What's your drive?
In terms of teaching, look, my background prior to teaching was actually product design. So I did industrial design at university, and always loved design and using my hands and things like that. And probably, I guess, a few years after that, sort of did a little bit of work. It was actually global financial crisis came in, and which I think was 2008. And I was doing marketing, my marketing degree at that time, and I had a lot of friends that were kind of losing work, and globally wasn't a great place. And I'd always wanted to be a teacher. Both my parents are actually teachers. My sister's a teacher. My auntie's a teacher. And I thought maybe I'd give teaching a go. So I did Masters of Education teaching and have not looked back since. So one of the I think the beautiful things of doing a teaching degree is in that first kind of semester or whatnot, when they get you out of the school to do your placement, and doing that placement in the tech field and being able to use all of this, like all the skills that I developed doing industrial design again, straight away I was like, yeah, this is where I want to do and where I want to be. So from there, it's just really being passionate about, wanting to not completely reinvent the wheel with design and technology education, still really acknowledging the importance of some of the traditional tech, but wanting to fuse that with some new modern technologies as well, and being able to expose kids to those and the importance of them, and just trying to come up with new and engaging projects for students. I'm always trying to think of something new. So that's probably the drivers for me. I think just what's cool and new that kids can learn about, what's going to be engaging, what's happening in the world, but importantly, what's things that I love doing as well, good projects, and I think all that come together makes a pretty exciting profession, I reckon.
Absolutely. You sound sort of very similar to the path that I trod as well. I was, in a tradesman prior to teaching, went and did a design degree, and then into teaching. And haven't looked back since. So we're not too distant in what we do. So, go ahead.
I'm glad that I did come that way into teaching, though. Like having that real grounded knowledge in design, it's really changed the way that I look at things in the design and tech classroom, and some of the projects that we run. And probably the same with you, coming from a design trade background into the classroom. It's giving you a different, being in the industry and bringing that back in, knowing like, hey, this is what's actually happening outside the classroom. That's what I want to kind of bring in here. That's why I'm teaching these guys this stuff. Get a bit more street cred with the kids, because they're like, oh, we actually know what you're talking about. You've been out there and done it. So, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it makes a tremendous difference. And now look, there's some amazing teachers out there who have they've just gone from they've finished their secondary education, gone into tertiary, become teachers, and gone into teaching students.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but I found in my travels over 20 plus years of teaching that some of the educators who just really connect and really revolutionize their classroom are ones who have come from an industry, whether it be law, whether it be design, whether it be engineering. They just bring this the X factor as such into the classroom. So and I think the kids really feed off it. Have you found that?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Like we've some, I mean, no discredit to those that have gone the traditional pathway to teaching, but yeah, it's like had worked with some people that came from an architecture background and come in and teaching architecture and design and just really like teaching it almost like a uni course in a way, like just having that deeper knowledge there. But yeah, it's an interesting one though. Like, what would be the advice you'd give like a student wanting to leave school to become a teacher? Would it be do a postgrad in something you're really passionate about and then add on a teaching degree or master's to that, or going like a bachelor of ed and picking your sort of your major and your minor? What do you reckon?
Oh, I'd steer them to do a bachelor's in something that they love to do, or even just go and do a trade.
Mm,
Go and do something that they're passionate about, that they have an interest in, then follow it up with whether it's a dip ed, bachelor, masters of education, whatever it may be,
mm,
and because it's almost the same time to get it done.
yeah,
But I guess horses for courses. I mean, I did it that way. I did a design degree and then followed it with so I did my trade, did a design degree, then did a education degree. Purely because I thought, geez, if I don't like teaching, I
yeah,
want to, I want to have
yeah,
something to fall back on.
absolutely,
So,
yeah,
but
100%.
look, if mind you, if any students want to become teachers now, I'm all for it. Yeah, hey, go do it. Like, get it. Like, we need more teachers. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to get a few, particularly ones that have done tech. Like I bumped into one the other day that I taught years ago. I'm like, what are you doing now? He's like, oh, I'm studying being a design and tech teacher. I'm like, awesome, mate. There's heaps of work out there for you. So, but the other thing is I've said to kids, oh, so, do you want to be a teacher when you leave school? And they're like, nah. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, you guys work too hard. You do too much work. I don't want to do it. So they're scared off from the job because they're just like, you guys are amazing. You do so much running around and do so much work for us. Like, looks tiring to us. So, yeah. But there's going to have to be some that do it. Otherwise, there's not going to be any people like us around when we're done to take it over. So,
yeah, absolutely. And there's teachers leaving in droves. Like a friend of mine, she wrote a post up the other day, and she just goes, "I've become a statistic on one of these teachers who have left the profession after 4 years."
yeah.
And it's like, man, and she had so much degree. She comes from she came from oh well, I've lost the word. But she was a reporter. She did copyright. She does all this sort of stuff, and so she brought that in. She teaches Japanese, so she's well travelled, and the system has just driven her out. So it was really sad
Yeah.
to read.
Yeah. You do hear
So
it a
yeah,
bit.
we work hard, and unfortunately, sometimes the system gets the better of some of these
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
teachers. So hopefully, us people who are getting a bit long in the tooth can share a bit of wisdom and insight and try and keep them in just that little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're the head of technology and enterprise.
Yeah.
And in society, people go, "Wow, so what do you do?" And you give that, well, this is what I do.
Yeah.
How do you like when they go, well, "What is that?" Like, so
Yeah. Okay.
how would you respond to that? Like, what is the head of technology and enterprise?
Okay, so I'm responsible for the subject areas of design and technology, or design, technology, and engineering, which is like the SACE subject banner there, which is like your digital tech, materials tech, food tech, under that. And then the enterprise subjects, the reason we group that in is because business and enterprise uses a lot of design thinking and a lot of prototyping, whether that be physical products or digital products, a lot of business concepts and so forth. So they're kind of under the same banner, and we try and have like a lot of overlap between enterprise subjects and design and technology subjects. There's lots of similarities, like you're working off design brief, you're working towards a customer, you're prototyping, you're evaluating, you're testing, you're researching, you're doing all of this stuff. So it's almost like same, but different in a way. Our food technology, we've actually evolved a lot to be more like that too. So food technology is actually starting to shift away from being like a hospitality type subject and more towards, I guess, a food design type subject. So you're designing and coming up with food meals, food products, and that you have to actually market, find a target market, and go through the same process. So I guess, yeah, I've got manage or look after the subjects under that, but try and have like a lot of synergy between them as well in a way. So and they work together really well. I mean, being a design technology teacher now for a while, I don't know if you find this, but we've always worked with the design cycle, the design process, and working through those key stages. But a lot of other curriculum areas are starting to see the importance in design thinking, innovative thinking, and some of that sort of stuff is starting to creep in to other subject areas as well. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. I love it. We're doing some cool stuff.
So design thinking and you're talking about you get these kids to, they're looking at design thinking, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But in the food tech area, like, I mean, I've taught bits and pieces of it, and but by the sounds of it, you're raising the next lot of master chefs. Like,
Yeah.
getting them to explore and just experiment.
And it comes a bit with your staff. So we're fortunate enough to have our food technology teacher come from an industry, but basically did a lot of, I guess, food testing. So almost more science behind food with like ice cream and yogurts actually. So did a lot of testing and what flavors go with what, and then all of the testing to decide. And then looking at the manufacturing. So if you've got a food product, like what's the best shape and packaging and how is it manufactured efficiently and all that sort of stuff, who's the target market. So going through a very similar process with what we do in food tech. So, I mean, it's probably one curriculum area where I think you absolutely nail in our subject area a lot of the testing, evaluating. You got 20 kids, you can give everyone a spoon. What do you think? Fill out this, give me some feedback. If it tastes good or does it taste bad? Like, and you get that instant feedback. Oh, I've got to add a bit more of that, a bit more of that. So we're kind of going down that path a little bit. The kids really like it. There was a bit of the complaint of, there's too much theory work, but the theory work at the start and the research and that design thinking, we say, stand back and go, all right, you said that at the start, but look how much better your products are at the end now. Like, you've got such a better understanding. That sped a few processes up, and your end product's 10 times better than what you would have come up with if you just let straight to the end. So, it's kind of changed it a bit. There's a bit of resistance early, but they know that that's just the way that we do things now, and it seems to be rocking along pretty well.
Yeah, and I guess, the pun there, the proof is in the pudding, that the kids who are about to start are seeing what the other students are producing, and they're just like, I want to do that.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like fun. So is it like, I'm assuming it's a pretty popular subject, or is it mandatory, and then goes into elective, or?
We run it at year 7. So we run this experience at year 7 where they do food, digital technology, design technology in a trimester rotation. So 13-week terms, I guess, over the year. And we've got this overarching theme of bees and honey. So they learn, it's all about learning about the importance of bees and the environment and the impact that we would have if they weren't around anymore. So do build bee hotels in tech, so learned a lot about wood, metal, plastics, laser cutting, things like that. And then in food, they make a whole lot of food. So we've got some teachers that actually have their own beehives. They bring in the honey, make like honey chicken and all of this stuff and food. And then we digitech, we make a game, a bee themed game. So that's compulsory at year 7, and then from then on it's elective. But it's gone gangbusters. It's probably one of our fastest growing subjects.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I chose food technology, well, what they called it, home economics when I was at school.
Yeah.
But I chose it just as a boy because I got free food, so I was.
Yeah, I mean that's the other good thing. Yeah, get free lunches every couple of days. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
So you were talking about design thinking.
yeah,
For some, I mean, I know about it. I mean, it's part of the curriculum we teach, and it's just, and you're talking about bringing, other subjects starting to go, oh, hold on, what's that? And we're hearing a lot about it, in the broader scope of education.
yeah.
But how would you explain design thinking?
The way I explain it to kids is when they come to a tech subject, I'm right. All right. So let's think about English, or let's think about humanities. If I gave you an essay question, would you just go on, start writing it, and then hand it up? And if you did that, how well do you think it'd go? And then the answers obviously would go pretty crap. So I'm like, well, what do you actually do? You actually go do some research, don't you? You go do some research and think of the different ways that you can write that essay and what the best way to structure it is and the best topics to talk about. And then you'll draft that essay a few times and you'll seek some feedback from your friends or your parents, your teachers. And then you write the essay, which I say is you produce the product. And then once the product is produced or the essay is written, you'll get your feedback and you kind of cycle around again. So that, I mean, it's not like a perfect example of what design thinking is, but it's the closest thing I can link for students that maybe have not used design thinking before in terms of like a process that is similar to a design thinking process. So, I mean, yeah, it's a lot about like that process itself, but I mean, you can bring in other aspects of, just thinking about things a little bit differently as well. I try and encourage like classic thinking outside the box a bit, and sort of using processes to help you through that. But there might be also elements of that design process with design thinking that you might want to focus on a little bit more than others as well. But that's generally how, I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but that's how I kind of hook the kids in. You go, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why I'm kind of, that's the design brief, and that's why I'm kind of digging into that and I'm trying to understand what the design brief is and how I can best meet it. So,
Yeah, I mean, hey, if it works, that's what you got to do, and it's a tangible thing that the kids can see and they understand, because they know when they go to 3 or 4 of their other subjects, they have to produce essays. I mean, I know in visual arts, the students have to produce essays based on understanding of artwork. Unless they have done the research, they don't know what the art is.
yeah.
They don't know what, if someone's asking about, what makes up an artwork, they've got to be able to say contours, lines, texture, color, tone. They've got to do all these things. So to give them an explanation that actually makes sense to them in their language, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that. Probably need to get a couple of teachers in your classroom to get a bit of understanding there.
Yeah.
So, but we look at all this design thinking. We look at and we're in creative subjects, so it's second nature to us. We have a problem, or we get the kids to define a problem, and I've explained in the past, like, but you're telling us what we have to make. I said, yeah, that's the end product, and look, unfortunately, that's where we've got to go. I'd love to be able to just say, come up with something and let's go for it. But here's what it is. But we got to personalize it. So how do you bring that personal creativity into your design technology classrooms?
Yeah. Well, we quite often early on, I guess younger years, you have design briefs with some scope of like freedom, like as much as we can, but obviously can't be just completely open gates early on, because they need to just understand a little bit more of the process. By the time we get to year 12, the gates are open, go for it. But yeah, what I normally do is sometimes make like a box that's got a size constraint, and like a crate almost, and just say, you've got to design a project that does this, and it needs to fit in that. Off you go. So that gives a bit of time. Like size is probably the thing. I don't know if you're on tech, because sometimes you go open and you got every kid making this ginormous project. Your workshop's full of stuff. Bigger doesn't always mean better. So they can do some really nice stuff that can fall. But again, like going back to just getting onto research, I've actually been using AI a bit for this, just to, like, we don't have to go down an AI rabbit hole, but with the AI, what I kind of say to kids is like, do some research of other things out there that might help inspire some ideas. And generally what a kid will do is they'll go to Google, type in, look at the first page of image results, and then that will drive their design. And then you've got a whole class of kids going to the first page, same first page of image result, and having similar inspiration for their end products. So, but if you go into like an image generator in AI and put the same thing in, so generate a modern skateboard, or what are some futuristic drones or whatnot that you might want to create, or a bit of modern furniture that uses plywood, and it will just pump out all these images that are like way beyond what the kids would ever come up with or ever see online, with just what people have already done. Like, we don't want to recreate what someone's already done. We want to create something that hasn't been done. Might be inspired by ideas, but that's been like a useful tool as well to get kids to go, oh, well, I would never have thought of that, and then start going down some of those pathways. Don't be scared to just, like, it's a bit cliche, but the whole don't be scared to fail type thing. And in design and tech, like, you have a lot of projects, and you do want kids to do really well and take a project home. If they take a risk with something and it doesn't quite work out, if they've given it a red hot crack and produce the product as well as they can, but just what they thought didn't work, that's okay with me. I've only once or twice I've ever done it, and I'd love to do it again. Let me know if you've done this before, but gone through a design process with the product, finished the project, done all the design, like the feedback and marking, and their own self-reflection, and then giving them the opportunity to do it again. And then, because what happens is they make that project, they get all the feedback, and then that's it. Like, your project's done, take it home. There's some changes that you probably would have liked to have done, but we're on to the next thing. But it was really interesting. Like, I mean, it took up a whole semester, but to go through the cycle again, and then I'm actually learning from all of the mistakes or the changes they did the first time they ran that project, and then, all the feedback and their own reflection, and applying that to the next round, the projects were awesome. Like, they were great. And they were so happy with them, and all those little risks they took ended up working out. But I think a thing that teachers kind of get a bit scared about is just time and assessment, and how am I going to get done in time? I've got to tick all these boxes before the end of the semester. I just don't have time to be able to give a kid a chance to fix up all the things again and try it again. Like, I don't know, but it was a good thing to do. I'd love to try and do it again.
Yeah, look, I haven't been able to do that. I just haven't had the time to be able to redo the whole project. But kids want to know what grade they get, and a lot of them, it's just they want to do the best. But what I try and put the spin on for my guys anyway is, before I give them back the grade, especially the younger ones, is I'll ask them just a couple of questions along those lines. It's like, if you had to make it right now, start all over again, knowing what you know, could you do a better job?
Yeah.
Are you excited to take it home? Are you excited to show your parents, caregivers, whoever? And like, if you answer yes to at least two of those questions, your project is a success.
Yeah, that's great.
Forget what mark I have to give you, because that's just school, and school sucks.
Yeah.
But if you've learned something, if you didn't think you could make this and you've made it, And that's
Yeah,
where that's what learning is. That's or for me anyway. Yeah, we've got to do the assessment and the teacher staff and follow the curriculum, which is all important. Don't get me wrong, but I find that the learning is when they're actually doing something and they're actually going,
yeah,
"Oh, I could actually do that better,"
yeah,
and then they go and do it. So
yeah. I had a example of one kid. The end project didn't work out, but he was in lunchtime. Taught himself how to use a metal lathe. Was lathing up all these brackets and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, the project did work." I said, "Yeah, but mate, you know how to lathe. You didn't even know how to lathe before. Like that's the thing you've taken away. Now you can use that, whenever you want to come in here." But he looked at it that way. He's like, "Yeah, you're right." So there's all those, the journey, not the end product, the journey type thing. But yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm all about skills. Like I'm a tool maker by trade, so precision metal machinist by trade. So I was on the lathes, I was on the milling machines, and a whole range of other things. Um,
yeah,
and I found that when I first started teaching after that, so back in 2000, and this is going to age me. Back in 2002 is when I started teaching. It was very much on let's get the kids into the tools. Let's get their hands dirty. And look, advanced manufacturing was starting to come in then, and well, it already was, but just into some of the schools it was starting to come in.
mm,
But I've noticed over the last 20 years that slowly the actual manufacturing skills, the hand skills, have been sort of pushed to the side. Have you found that down where you
yeah,
are?
yeah. Like tonight had an open night at school. Parent came through and was like, the school up the road doesn't do wood tech anymore. They've they've scrapped it. They've just gone computer lab. Um, we 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 just did a redevelopment of our tech facilities 2 years ago, and we were 100% gung ho that we want to keep all the traditional tech and manufacturing and things like that. I think there are a few schools around that are still doing that. There's a few going the other way, but I think there's still like a misconception that doing materials tech is only going to lead to a trade.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason that a kid's going to do it. And if they're not going to do a trade pathway, then there's no point. But there's so much more than that. Like now with engineering and a whole lot of other things, or even just the kids. We get a lot of kids who will come and do it up to year 11 and then stop at year 11 and jump to other subjects because of, whatever the uni prerequisites are and stuff like that. But always come back and say that doing tech was like one of the most valuable things to do. Project management, planning, like all of those wood skills. And I think you might find, I've speaking to other teachers, but find that, your brightest kids come into the workshop and then just can't apply like some of the maths concepts to measuring or marking out timber or doing projects like that. It's still quite a bit of a challenge for students to kind of take and apply some of that knowledge. So yeah, we'll keep it as long as we can. I think there's so much value in doing those advanced manufacturing and hand skills and things like that.
Yeah, because it's. I mean, we've touched on AI, and we'll probably go into it a little bit more later. But with the hand skills, I mean, there's only so much of, computers can do.
Mm.
But then there's also that as people are creative, they love to do stuff, and whether it's drawing in the sand on the beach I mean, I still do it now, so I can't put an age
Yeah.
on that. To building something in the workshop, to doing a piece of art by hand. Um, there's something I think innately important, and we find valuable in that creation. Um,
Mm.
and I think again, it's one of those things that these skills have been pushed to the side, pushed down, not seen as valuable. But all of a sudden, we're going, well, who are some of the most highly paid people at the moment?
Mm.
I see it, especially like living on the Gold Coast, the tradespeople, like the
Oh,
plumbers, the electricians, that they are, because their skill is valued.
mm. Yeah, and I don't think that's what everyone predicted. I think when AI came in, it's like, oh, blue collar's done, like middle class done, and then but it's almost been the opposite. Like all the white collar jobs are going, and then the blue collar jobs can't be touched. And I don't know what that looks like in the future. Like that's probably more like a robotics automation type thing. But yeah, there just aren't enough trades. Like it's unbelievable. I was chatting to the TAFE here, and I think it was last year, and 2 or 3 bricklayers coming out, and the demand is incredible, especially with like looking at housing demand now, the amount of houses that they plan to build over the next few years or whatever. It's not going to happen if you've got 3 trades bricklayers coming out of TAFE. So, but yeah, like it's the other thing I think with the hand skills is there's a bit of like physical risk in a workshop. Like there's danger there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and what psychological benefit or educational benefit is there in being in a situation where you need to assess risk, and there is a possibility that something could go wrong, but you develop a skill and you know how to do it safely. They're still using saws and hammers and bandsaws and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what the benefit of that aspect of being in a workshop is, because I know there's a lot that talk about kids needing to do more risky play and things like that. What's the benefit of that in the workshop? That element of risk, um, working safely, so forth. But,
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? In our field, especially in teaching. I know I was chatting just the other day with the head of department of another school, a government school, um, and his setup is amazing. The money that's been poured into his department is a brand like the school's only a couple of years old.
yeah,
So I went for a tour there, and I was astounded with the machines, but most of them have not been used. I've gone like, why aren't they being used? And he said the teachers are scared of blowback from an injury.
yeah, right.
So it's just like that. Whereas back when I was at school, we're thrown in. Gee, go do it.
Yeah,
Your classroom 24. There's 4 lathes going. There's kids on saws and hammers and soldering in the
yeah,
background. And, um, but it seems that the worry of litigation
yeah. It's
is encroaching on the students' experience.
it's a funny one. I laugh at it a bit, to be honest, because like you've got a guy, the groundsman that comes in who's been, doing this stuff for 20 years, and then you've got the occupational safety coming in. No, they can't use any of the tools in the workshop. They're not trained. And then you've got little year 7 over here, just grabbing out a tennis saw and going for it. So it's interesting how it's kind of like or like you need some extra help in the workshop, but that teacher's not trained, but the kids can. I'm not sure how that kind of all works, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether they do start to encroach a little bit more and say, well, look, this might actually be a bit unsafe for kids. But
Yeah, look, there's definitely some unsafe practices, and I mean, you've got to have your head on a swivel. That's for sure in a workshop
yeah,
environment. But it's like, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
but then I guess you got science as well. There's risk in science. PE, I'm sure, has its associated risk. Javelin, there's things like that. So it's probably one of the underrated things of a teacher. I say to my mates, look, I'm in a workshop. We've got 20 kids running around using machines, and you've got eyes in the back of your head and just managing everything. And it's a tough gig, but obviously at the end of the day, we love the kids. We do it for them, and try and make it work.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're we're lumped in now, and I say lumped in with the STEM umbrella. So
Yeah,
science, or STEM, STEAM, what the heck?
yeah,
It's an ever evolving acronym there in our department. Which I mean, personally, I find a little bit frustrating, just because everything that I've taught over the years has encompassed that. But it was just like, okay, well, it's got to be STEM now. But
yeah.
but how would would you describe design and technology as STEM in its pure essence, because we cover all those things, or
Yeah, I think you could say it is, particularly with the ACARA curriculum. Like if you look at, for example, like some of the force and motion type stuff in the curriculum at the moment, you've got an entire STEM course written around that, really, with the theory components and the tech and so forth. But yeah, I don't know. Like I agree. I think that technology projects can absolutely address STEM and expanding out some of the I guess some of the theory components of it as well. I was thinking on the way home, like the watch project that you did, for example. Okay, so you did that watch project. That could easily be expanded. I don't know if you do this, by the way, but it could easily be expanded out into a massive STEM. Like you could do a whole research topic on time, and the time and history, why we use time, all of that sort of stuff. Bring it in. You're making the timepiece. You're doing so. Any of the projects we're doing, to answer your question, like, I think we are, and it doesn't take much more to expand out any project to incorporate all the other letters in STEM as well. It's just a bit more of that, a bit more of that for a project that we're already doing.
yeah, yeah, it's just dropping the terminology in. Like, you look at material science, like why are we using timber instead of metal? Why are we using
Mm.
plastics? Why are we using a laser cutter instead of a scroll saw? So we're looking at the
Yeah,
science of things. Technology. Well, that's just what we do. you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and what is technology when you break it down? Is it a pencil? Is it a laser cutter? Is it a
Mm.
laptop sitting in front of you? So it covers all that sort of stuff. So, which leads on to my next question:
Yep.
is we're looking at STEM, and we're looking at advanced technologies and advanced manufacturing. So, as a head of technology and enterprise, which covers all that, um, are these skills critical as we move into what we're calling the fourth industrial revolution? Like, are these? Do you think these skills are more critical than our maths and English humanities sort of subjects as such?
Yeah, so I mean, if we talk about so advanced manufacturing, so I guess when I think about that, I think like a lot of CAD and CAM type stuff. CNC milling, laser cutting, 3D printing. We've got water jet cutter, a lot of robotics, automation in that. There's a lot of coding that goes in with that sort of stuff as well. Um, I mean, South Australia, for example, we're wanting to go more down an advanced manufacturing pathway and do green manufacturing. So basically, having advanced manufacturing that's powered by renewables. So it's absolutely going to be a big part of our future. And I think kids having a real deep understanding of advanced manufacturing and how they can. There's a lot of thinking that goes into it, but I guess how that can influence a lot of the career pathways they go down. When you start talking about advanced manufacturing, it's a lot more than a big lathe. Like if you talk about 3D printing in the dentistry industry, you talk about robotics. If a kid puts his hand up and said, I want to be a doctor when I get home. Well, you've now got robots where you can be on the other side of the world and be doing surgery. That's why we're learning about this, and so there's so much of that through every single, different type of career pathway that the kids can learn about. And sort of talking a bit more about that, like you're learning this because there's actually all of these other things that leads into. It's really important for the kids to learn about. I get a lot of kids that do don't want to do engineering, like sciences, computer science, degrees like that come through tech and learn a lot about the CAD, CAM, advanced manufacturing type thing because they know that it will help them in the future. And a lot that come back to school end of first year uni of like, man, like I smashed first year because you guys taught me all about doing this advanced manufacturing stuff at school. And, I was way ahead. Like I knew how to do it all. So yeah, it's really important. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think they need to be aware of it. My thinking is we still need to touch on the traditional, because
Yeah.
without the traditional an understanding, not necessarily like they don't need to make dovetail joints, um, that we don't need to teach them how to do that as such. But I think they need to have an understanding of, well, the technology of the day was a dovetail joint because we didn't have glues, and that was the best
Yeah.
way to do it. And so as we progressed, we started with animal glues. We don't use
Mm.
animal glues anymore, do we? And then so on and so forth, so that they get that understanding of not just, oh yeah, I'll just draw it up in CAD and I'll 3D print it and
Yeah, yeah,
done.
yeah,
And so I find that to have the creative and critical thinking skills, they have to have an understanding of where we are from where we came from.
yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that point. Like, I'm doing a project, and also like understanding limitations for advanced manufacturing as well. So, where I'm doing a project at the moment where they're doing CNC furniture out of plywood, but you've only got an 8 mil. Well, we're doing it out of an 8 mil flat end cutter,
Yep.
but it needs to slot together, and obviously the corners need to be quite square. But we can only get a radius on some corners square. But then, that's the limitation of the machine. Now you've got to kind of go back and do some of those hand skills to get it all going together. You're going to have to get a file out and a chisel and all this sort of stuff to get it all fitting together really nicely. So there's some of that pre and post processing type stuff as well that the kids go, actually, yeah, I still do need to know some of this stuff just to finish a few things off. And I'm sure maybe there's wanted to really dig into the CNC and get some different cutters and whatever, might be able to do it. But it's nice just to show them that you still need to know some of this stuff, even though the machine might be able to do a good bulk of it. It's handy to know.
Yeah, they still have to have that understanding of actually, well, how does something fit together? Like, yeah, I'm using an 8 mil cutter and I'm using 8 mil ply, but how does it fit together? Do I need to make an allowance? Is the width
Yeah,
of the band? Is it going to be perfect? All that sort of stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
I think we've got to they've got to, and that's where teachers come in.
mm,
We have that experience and that knowledge and that understanding, which then goes to AI.
yeah,
So a lot of the conversation, you've probably heard it as well, is that's it. Teachers are out of business, or this person. We don't. What do we need a teacher for? We got a chat bot. What do we need a
yeah,
teacher for? We've got. There's all these, and unfortunately, I think it's really negative. And
mm,
it's sort of bashing up the teacher and removing the value that the person brings
yeah,
to the classroom. And so, we don't need to be the font of all knowledge, or the fount of all
mm,
knowledge, or what the term is. We don't need to. We don't. The kids know that we don't know everything.
yeah.
So we're better off, using some of these other tools. But I've sort of lost track where I was going with that because I get on a bit of a rant with
Yeah,
on
but I
those
guess
things. But it's like, why? How much do you bring like AI into it, and is it impacting what you're doing?
uh, look, I would say that I'm like really aware of AI and I use it where appropriately. I'm not a hardcore AI user. I got really into AI in the early days, and I really keep track with it. But I kind of read the room a little bit with the kids as well. So where I think that AI can be used, particularly with it's a really useful tool in helping students, particularly those with learning needs and struggling to get started, to put assignments forward to them in different ways, help them sort of structure and plan things out. Just get that's like a real common roadblock, I think, for kids. Just like once they get over that little bump of getting started, and AI can help a little bit, then they can kind of run with it with the other stuff. So, I mean, at the same time, like this thing, I don't know if you use Fusion 360 or not, but they introduced some AI functionalities in that would create from a 3D model part would create all of your technical drawings for you. So you click a button, how many technical drawings do you want? Bang, do it. And they were like all over the shop. So we did it with the kids, and it pumped them out, but not very well. And a lot of the kids were like, man, I'll just do this myself. Like the tech isn't there yet. It was nice to see how it works, but I'm going to learn a lot more on how to set up a technical drawing and read a technical drawing if I'm going through and applying these dimensions myself and these views and the materials and all those sorts of things. Other examples of, getting AI to write some reading cards and things like that. The students have sort of, for an oral presentation, students have come back and said, because I didn't write it, I couldn't apply it to memory. And when it came time to use the reading card, I was just muddled. I would kind of read it, but I didn't really know it and understand it because I didn't write it myself. So there's some of that sort of thing as well. But I mean, look, I'm a big investor in a lot of AI stuff in the stock market, so I'm absolutely all behind AI. But I just see how it goes. I'm sort of a cautious optimist, I guess, and applying where I think it's really has a high value. So not just everything from now on is AI. I'm not that person, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, look, I'm very similar with how I bring it into the classroom, and it's great to hear from you the same thing, but also the kids' reaction. They're like, "Nah, I can do it better myself," or I can't. This doesn't sound like me.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, and it's great to break that blank page mindset just to help them get started, to help them try and communicate, to build up their communication skills and their creative thought in a written way, because we know that's what Gen AI, both text to text, but also text to image, and I mean they're moving forward with the voice to text and things like that. And I found it beneficial for those kids who just get stuck. They're just jammed up. But it's. Do you find that the kids are happy to take it or leave it?
Yeah, I mean, in saying all that, I've pretty much scrapped theory tasks. I don't do theory tasks anymore, pretty much, or not in its traditional form. I've completely thrown the old theory task out the window. It's just a waste of time at the moment, to be honest. Fortunately we're in a subject area where we go through a really rigorous design process that involves practical skills, like hand drawn imagery, a lot of creative thinking, innovative thinking that. I'm sure that there's some AI hardcores will say that they can, but I don't think that at the moment that can be easily be replaced compared to maybe English or so forth if we just sort of looked at it on a surface. But the theory task is one thing that I've completely revamped. So I've kind of changed the way I do that, and what I've kind of said to students is you can use as much AI as you want to research these questions, go nuts, right? But I want you to learn everything that you research. I want you to really, truly understand it because you're going to do a 2-minute oral presentation based on your knowledge, and I'm going to fire you some questions, and you've got to be ready to answer the question. Because, and that's worked really well. The kids are like, well, I have to actually learn this, which is what we want at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, we want kids to just learn this knowledge. I don't care where the knowledge, how you access it, but if you can learn it and I can have a conversation and you understand it, then you succeeded. Because I was thinking back to, all right, well, how would I traditionally do that in an oral presentation or anything else? Kids are still paraphrasing stuff. They're not deeply learning all of it. Maybe some do, but there's a big chunk that are kind of still fluffing around the edges, paraphrasing it, writing a few things. But have they walked away? Could I ask them about that? Next term, would they understand everything, or are they kind of halfway between their own thoughts and AI at the moment anyway? And now, so yeah, that's kind of how I'm approaching assignments with the kids now. Go nuts on AI, but you need to really know your stuff and prove to me that you've kind of learned it.
Yeah, that sounds like the right way to do it. It's we still need to assess these kids. That's part of school, whether we like it or not. And there's goals and targets, and they've got to be able to get to the next chapter of their life, whatever that may be. And often that requires a final grade or a passing of to gain a certificate and things like that. And you're not getting rid of assessment. You're not going, okay, everything's got to be handwritten now, and gone back to the distant past.
Yeah.
But you're moving with the times, which I think is a fantastic way to go, and it's what we do have to do. We need to. I mean, we should be constantly doing this anyway as educators. We should be looking at what's the
Yeah,
goal
and
for the kids.
I think in tech, design and tech is I feel it's a subject area where you're constantly learning new stuff. Like we were digging into AI before ChatGPT came out. Like AI was something you learned all about it. Obviously, it went nuts, but it's not a new thing, and or a new bit of software you need to learn because you've got a different way that you want to do things, or a new piece of equipment. This rocks up in the workshop. All right, now I need to teach myself how to use this. There's always something new that comes in, and you're always upskilling. Like the skills I have now compared to what I knew 5 years ago is completely different. Like obviously got the core stuff, but I've had to teach myself so much new stuff in the last 5 years. And I just think, and that's probably another reason why I really love the subject area. I love design and tech, digital tech, all that stuff, because there's always new stuff coming out. There's always something new. I always try and keep up with the latest trends and whatnot. That looks really cool. How can I incorporate that into a project? Will the kids like it? And doing stuff like that. So yeah, constantly. And then AI is just another thing that we're kind of learning, upskilling, introducing, like integrating into what we do. But it's good that it kind of is always evolving and changing.
Yeah. So you see AI in the design space as just another tool to help the kids get to the end goal.
Yeah, I think so. But I started doing things like I've tried when I work it out, it'll be great. But like think of it, earlier we were talking about, valuation component of the project. But if the kids, and I reckon this came up in a bit of a LinkedIn chat as well, maybe you're in it, but kids getting their product, getting a photo of a product midway through the process or the end of the process, and getting AR to provide some feedback on that product as part of the evaluation process, I think it'd be quite a valuable tool. Or being able to put up 3 or 4 design sketches, concepts. Which one do you think is best and why? Or putting up 4 or 5 design concepts, saying that it needs to be a product for the whatever design brief or target market. Which one do you reckon is best? And then that's the pathway the kid kind of takes. So I think it'd be a valuable tool like that. Kids don't pick our subject area because they want to spend all their time on a computer.
Yeah.
They pick the subject area because they're in the workshop with their mates, having a chat, coming in at lunchtime, working on projects, feeling really proud about what they created, taking it home, and having it sit, next to their bed for the next 10 or 15 years and going, oh, yeah, I made that in woodwork in year 9, like I've still got mates that have still got metal pencil cases when they're at school 20 years ago because it's like it's a little thing that they remember, tangible thing that they can take away with them. That's why the kids pick our subject area. So I don't see that changing in a hurry. I think kids still like, and same with visual arts, they still like you said, humans are creators, and I think that's a really important part. Has been for what, thousands of years.
Yeah.
In that physical creation. I'm about to head off to Italy next week actually. So all the Rome and all the statues and the
Oh,
art galleries and all that sort of stuff. Like
so mate,
that's
have you been there before?
yeah. I've been before. I haven't been for
Oh,
10 years, so it'd be good to
it's
get
amazing,
back
isn't
there.
it? I love it.
Yeah. So like you look at all that stuff. Like is that just gone on its head? And there's a lot of innovation that's happened, over thousands of years, and it's still like a really, things that humans still kick on back to. I don't know if this next innovation is going to be the thing that goes, humans are just going to completely change the path of history and not want to do any of that stuff anymore.
No.
So,
I think there might be a resurgence back into our field. I think because we're going to have the time, and we you know we want to create, we want to do, and we want to build. So we look at the hybrid schooling type of stuff, but then there's only so much you can do. Like we said, there's only so much you can do on a computer, and you want to make, and so
here's a question for you. Do you reckon like some schools go so hardcore down the AI path that it actually full swings the other way, and there's maybe bespoke schools that really emphasize like those human to human interactions. Maybe it's like no device at all type stuff. Like, can you see it? It like I can kind of feel like there's got to be at some point when it goes so far down that way that people are going to start looking for experiences or opportunities, like human experiences. You know, the drama, the arts, and maybe that's what we get back to. Maybe it's back to philosophy and all of these types of things that happened, years ago. So, yeah, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, look, I mean that's a great. I actually think that's what's going to happen. I think AI and I've had some conversations with some people who are that's their job is AI and that's what they do, um, and they're educators, but their focus is with artificial intelligence. But it's going to bring and it has the potential, and we're starting to see it a little bit. I think to create to make us more human, to build that human
Mm.
connection to like I mean technology is great. Like you sit in Adelaide, I'm sitting here on the Gold Coast. How good is technology that we can have this conversation?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it's allowing us, and even for when I produce the podcast, the AI tools that are on this platform are going to save me so much time, so that I can actually go, oh, let's have some more conversations, and so I can build
Yeah.
that human connection um, through with the tools that we have. So I think that there is going to be a swing to some specialized schools, just as there is to some of the hybrid and online schools, because that's where those kids learn the best. They
Mm.
they might have their social anxiety, or they
Mm.
just have long term illnesses where they just physically can't turn up to school, whatever the thing may be, and they're excelling. And then there's going to be the kids who go, I just want to learn how to do stuff, and
Yeah.
I think that's gonna, I think it'll take
It's a
off
good
for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point, and that's the point to make. Like AI is far more than just large language models.
Yeah,
Like when people talk about AI, that's like Chat GPT, large language model. Like that's just, but it's so much more. Like you said, the video editing, heaps of stuff, medicine. Like there's a million other things that AI can really help humankind, um, humankind with. Like, but yeah, I think you automatically kind of just go to the large language models, ChatGPT, like that's just going to take over. But yeah, like you said, there's so many other things that it does.
yeah, and I think it'll bring people closer together, and it'll bring back some of those bespoke skills, because we don't need to spend all our time doing other things. We can actually go, all right,
Yeah,
that's done.
I
Let's move
hope
on.
so. I hope that's what happened because I mean that's what they said would happen when we brought in the personal computer that we get all this time back when it just made us work more. So I'm hoping I'm hoping with AI it does actually give us some more of that time back. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey Tom, we've dug into some pretty deep things, and we've had
Yeah.
some. I think I'm trying to work out if this is your podcast or my cast. Because you've asked some pearl of questions, and I love it, mate.
That's all
Thanks for
right,
that,
mate.
and that's why I'm doing this, to have these conversations. So,
Yeah, no,
um,
it's been great.
but I'm gonna just finish off with a little bit of fun, couple of questions
Yeah.
before we wrap up. So, first one, favorite drink.
Sorry, what's that?
What was your favorite drink?
Oh, favorite drink. Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Hey, whatever you like. I'll always say yes to a beer.
I would say, like, I love a Barossa Valley Shiraz, lovely wine region down here. So that would probably be favorite alcoholic drink. And I would say non-alcoholic. I actually just like sparkling water, to be honest. Bit of
Yeah.
a simple fan there, but yeah, love it.
Oh, mate, I've got my Soda Stream always going. So,
Yeah,
mate, I am envious of the your proximity to the Barossa.
yeah,
It'd almost be worthwhile finding a job in South Australia. So,
yeah. Absolutely, mate. It's a good place to work.
um, now we've all dealt with some insults from students. They've given us some names, or they've just caught us out off guard. What's one of the best ones that a student's got you with?
I haven't my students aren't very original. I just get elephant because like my last name's Oliphant, and they just go elephant or Mr. O. They aren't too creative with that sort of stuff, but yeah, they're the two names.
Yeah, because I was having a conversation just earlier, and this student rocked into this teacher's classroom, and teacher goes, "Well, why are you late?" And the kid just looks at him deadpan, "Just living my best life, sir," and just keeps walking.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, we gotta love the students. Now I've had some working in boys' schools. I've had some that I can't
Yeah,
really
okay.
repeat on this podcast. But
Yeah, yeah,
now you talked about going to Italy.
yeah.
What are there any countries that you've been to that you've gone? Yeah, never coming back here again.
Oh, that's a good one. I have travelled quite a bit, to be honest. I I like really getting off the beaten track, and I'm not a big fan of like really over touristy type places. So there was actually like the real touristy parts of Thailand. I actually did not like much at all, to be honest. Done like a lot of Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and all through there, and that's probably but just a real westernized part of Thailand. I didn't enjoy, but yeah, like been to Morocco and the US and South America, all through Europe, and loved everywhere. But that would probably be my one, I reckon.
So just stay away from the tourist hotspots, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
Ah, fair enough. Now, being the Tattoo Teacher podcast, and as you can see, I've got one or two. Do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't. No, I've thought about it. I don't know if I'm a perfectionist or not, but I just haven't been convinced that I'd love what I get. I've always had this phobia that whatever I would get, I'd change my mind and not like it.
Oh,
So I've got like every one of my mates has got one. My wife's got tats, but none. I'm no tats at all. So
yeah.
I like yours. So you got. Well, here's one for you. Have you got a favourite one
Oh,
that we can see?
mate. Oh, look. To be honest, each and every one of them has got meaning. So
Yeah,
I've never gotten a tattoo just go, oh yeah, that looks cool. I'll get that one.
yeah,
I never got any of the. I didn't get my first tattoo until I was 30. So
yeah. Okay,
um,
yeah,
they've all like let's say the metropolitan one here. That's just I get one for the cities and countries that I
yeah,
visit. So that's for Paris.
yeah.
I went to Detroit, which is a city that I love.
Oh, awesome.
If you
Yeah,
love architecture, Detroit's the place to go for sure. So I've got
yeah,
that one.
cool.
So you know, I get different ones for for the
Yeah,
for the
no,
cities that
that's
I
all.
go
I
to.
love them. Like I love tattoos. I love looking at them. I think they're amazing. So, but yeah, haven't got around to getting one. I think I'll get one day, but I'll let you know if I ever do. Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to go about that?
I would say LinkedIn at the moment. LinkedIn is probably the best platform to get in touch with me. I've got I don't have like Facebook or anything like that or Instagram. I'm a bit of an anti Zuckerberg fan on that front, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
So
that's fine with that one.
um, yeah, yeah. But yeah, LinkedIn would be the best spot to find me. And just hit us up on that. I'm more than happy to help anyone with any questions or anything that they've got. So
All right, I'll put your profile in there. I'll link to your profile in the show notes.
for sure, mate. Yep, sounds good.
Well, Tom, it is getting it on, and it is a school night, so I want to thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining me on the podcast tonight. Thanks for your insights and for the questions, man. You got me thinking about a few things as well. So, and you've given me a couple of tips that I can hopefully bring into my classroom as well.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Like, thanks again for having us. You're doing a great job with this podcast. It's been awesome to listen to. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, and have an awesome night.
No worries. See you, mate.
See ya. Thank you for listening to the Tattooed Teacher podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your network. Special thanks to DJ Fruit Salad for the music. You can find more of his work on Instagram at DJ Fruit Salad Official. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Stay cool, be blessed.